Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book tag. It's been a while since I've done a book tag, but anyways, this is going to be the Think Twice book tag. I was tagged by Jeremy Fee, and yeah, so we'll get right into it. So this first question is Double Vision, a book that features twins. And I like this choice for a specific reason, and you'll see here momentarily. L'Amour d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory. The reason why I like this choice is because I have it in two parts, part 1 and part 2, which applies to this tag as well. So anyways, we will continue on with my reasoning for why, and so the features twins. This features Balin and Balin. Balin and Balin. I don't know. B-A-L-A-N and B-A-L-I-N. And I actually am not positive that they are twins, but they're spelled very similar, and I'm pretty sure they are twins, so that's who we're going to go with because I love those characters, and I just wanted another reason to feature this book because it's pretty, especially volume 1. Volume 2 is a little bit different looking. Still nice, but anyways, alright, continuing on. Prompt 2. Double Talk, a book with two or twice in the title. And for that, I went with, can anybody guess what book I went with? I went with The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. Obviously, two. There's two towers. So the two towers in this book are Isengard, or Orthanc actually is the tower. Isengard is the entire area. So Orthanc is the one tower, and the other tower that this is concerning is the Minas Morgul, which used to be Minas Ithil. So we have, because those are the two towers that we are primarily dealing with in this story, or that primarily affect this specific part of the book, those are the two towers that we're referring to. Prompt 3. Seeing Double, a book with a reflection, shadow, or mirror images of the cover. And for that I went with The Deerslayer by James Fenimore Cooper. As you can see, there is the canoe with two characters on the one side, and then on the top, and then underneath in the reflection of the lake is the same image, just in reflection form. So that counts for that one. Okay. Prompt 4. Take 2. Two book covers that look similar but are by different authors. This is one of those ones that you can kind of go a lot of places with, and you could really choose any two covers and find similarities between in some ways. Even those two covers, but I'm not going to use that. Anyways, so the ones that I ended up going with are Gurzil by Anonymous and The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham, and this is primarily because they're black covers, lots of black around them, except in the center there's black and red objects. Obviously the one is a dragon eye on the one side, and the other is some sort of, I'm not entirely sure what it is. It looks like there's a knife blade of some sort and some sort of circular something, and a key, and I don't know what they all are because I haven't read this book yet, and I really need to, and I really want to, but I haven't read it yet. Yeah, so those two covers look similar, but are by two different authors. Oh, and you could also add in The Two Towers, because that's got the red and black theme as well. I second that. A retelling. So this is a fun one for me because there's a lot of books that are retellings, some of them that I haven't read that I want to, some of them that I haven't read that I don't care if I do, some of them that I have read. Anyways, I will just say the one that I chose is Gawain by J.P. Harker, and this is a retelling of the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight story. I really like this book. You know what, I have a review of this. I'll just have it linked up in the corner because I don't really want to try and talk about all the things that I thought regarding this book. But I did really like this book. It's a very different take on the Green Knight story. But if you look at it as a different cycle of that story, then it works just fine, and it's very interesting, and it sets up for some very cool stuff. And I'm excited for the second book in this series if it ever comes out. I shouldn't say if it ever comes out. I don't know how far along it is, how far along J.P. Harker is on that book, but I'm excited anyways. Prompt 6. 2 can play at that game. A character who plays two roles or has an alter ego. And I did not grab this book, which is unfortunate. Let me see if I can find a different answer here real quickly. That's a good one. That's a good choice. I'm going to use, oh, that's another good choice. There's a couple of good choices. The one that I'm going to go with is Operation Grindel by Daniel Schwabauer. And that's because a major plot line that starts out very early revolves around somebody pretending to be who they're not. And it's very interesting, the whole way that it's done, and I really like it. Yeah, and this is a good book. People should read it. The other potential answer for that was going to be The Prisoner of Zenda by Anthony Hope. Also, you could actually even say the other answer that I had written down, but I forgot to grab the book, so I'm not going to do it, was The Scarlet Pimpernel by Brandon Zorzi. It Takes Two, a duology. This is one that I actually had a little bit of a difficult time thinking about because there's a lot of duologies that I haven't read. I was like, well, I'm sure I've read some duology, but I couldn't think of one. Eventually, I did think of one, and the one that I thought of is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. This is essentially a duology of two short books, not novelettes, I don't know what they are, but it's very interesting, very strange, and I really liked it. I don't really think I need to talk too much about this because this is a very, very famous book. It's a very famous classic, and I think a lot of people have some idea of what this stories plural because there's two of them, are about. So we can just continue on from there. And the next one, On the Double, a book told in two timelines. And this is, I had the perfect answer for this. This could actually almost fit most of these prompts. It couldn't fit, you know, you can make an argument for just about all of the books in this, or all of the prompts on this one. Anyways, Calculated by Nova McBee. It's told, this book specifically is told in, actually I think it's told in 3 timelines if I'm being honest. So maybe that doesn't count because we have, so maybe this doesn't count because we've got 3, maybe even 4 timelines that are played with in this book. I don't think so. I think it was actually written in a single timeline. If I'm remembering correctly, it was written a single timeline, but then in order to make the story flow properly, that timeline was cut and we mixed and matched where the pieces go. And I think that's how that works. So I'm gonna say that it counts. Either way, we have flashbacks, we have the past, and we have the present, so I'm gonna count it. A Perfect Pair. The last 2 books you gave 5 stars to. So this is actually I will reuse one answer that I've already used, and that is The Deerslayer by James Fenimore Cooper. This was, I really like this book. I love classics, I love westerns, I love stuff set in the United States. This is actually before it's the United States even, if I remember correctly. But I love this book. And then the other one I have is A Swiftly Tilting Planet, which is the 3rd book in the I think it's a quintet. I think there's 5 books that Madeleine L'Engle wrote in this series or in this world. And yeah, I like this. So far book 3 has been my favorite of the series. I liked the first one. The second one was a little bit weirder, didn't quite like it as much, but then third one, which is A Swiftly Tilting Planet, I really liked, and it got 5 stars from me, which I was actually a bit surprised by. What else have we got? 2 for the Show, a book that has been adapted to film 2 or more times, and there's a lot of answers for this. I went with The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, and specifically because obviously it's been adapted time and time again, but there's also a new adaptation coming out later this year that is in 2 parts. There's part 1 and there's part 2, and I like that too. That's cool, and it also applies to the tag, so it's a good answer for this one. That new adaptation is all in French, which is really cool, and I really like that. That's going to make it more faithful in many ways. But at the same time, I don't speak French, so I'm gonna have to watch it with subtitles, which I don't have any issue with subtitles, but I would love to be able to understand the movie without needing the subtitles, you know? Alright. Two's Company, a book with 2 or more authors or a translated fiction book. So this is one where my initial thought was, I cannot think of a book that I have read or that I own with 2 or more authors, so I was thinking, alright, so what's a translated one? And the first one that came to mind was Beowulf. Seamus Heaney has translated it, Tolkien has translated it, there's tons of people who have translated it, but that's translated from English to English, just like a old or a Middle English to modern English, and that doesn't really work. So I decided not to go with that. Actually, I pulled it out anyways because I couldn't remember what all the books I'd listed here, and the one that I went with is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This is an author duo that one of the authors is Marie Brennan, who I have read stuff by and I really liked. The what is her series called? The Lady Trent Memoirs. I really liked that, but I haven't read anything else by her yet, and I haven't read this book, and I don't remember who the other author is that wrote this, that is part of this author duo. You're going to tell me. Joint pen name of Marie Brennan and Alec Helms. So I haven't read anything by Alec Helms, but I have read some things by Marie Brennan that I liked. I don't know if I'm going to like this book. It's been sitting on my shelf. It's a nice floppy Orbit paperback. I think the cover is very pretty. But other than that, I don't know anything about the book. Other than that, there's some things that make it sound like it might not be my type of book. And there's some things that sound like, oh, I might like it anyways. So we will see. Eventually I might try and read it, but it's going to be a while. The last question on this is double take. Recommend 2 books you think would pair well together and tell us why. And this is an interesting question, a very, very interesting question, and I really like it. But the 2 books that I chose don't really seem like they go together. The stories that are being told, the topics and themes that are presented are very different. But I think that they can go together very interestingly. And I'll hopefully be able to explain my reasoning here. But the first one is Sir Gawain the Green Knight. I love this story. I have talked about this story a lot. You guys know that I love this story. And the second story is The Children of Húrin by J.R. Tolkien. This is what I have long called my favorite Tolkien story. Not my favorite Tolkien book, because there's a difference between a book, because your favorite book involves the process of reading it, involves the experience of physically holding the book, looking at the illustrations, if you've got illustrations, just the way that everything that goes into making a book work perfectly, making it your favorite book is different than a favorite story. Sometimes they can be the same, and that's great if they are. I've long considered Children of Húrin to be my favorite Tolkien story since the first time I read it in 2012, 2013, something like that. And I just recently finished rereading this, and I still hold that to the opinion. So I have 2 stories that my favorite Tolkien story and probably my favorite story. And so that in and of itself makes them pair well together. But, and here's where the difference comes in. This is a very different story from this. This is a tragedy, a very dark, very sad tragedy. And I love that about it. This is quite the opposite of a tragedy. It's not a comedy. It is a story about overcoming and not failing, or what do you do when you fail? How do you come back from that? But what I think is interesting about that is, in fact, the juxtaposition between these 2 books, where one is failure and the other is one is succumbing to failure and the other is overcoming failure. And reading those 2 stories together, I think, is very interesting, and I think that they would pair well together if you were able to write some sort of academic essay on these 2 books, comparing and contrasting them. You could have a very, very interesting topic. And I am not smart enough to understand all that. It would take me a long time to figure out how to make it work, but I like the idea of it, and I think that it works as 2 books that you think would pair well together. I don't have a whole lot of why to it, but anyways. Alright, so then I'm supposed to tag some people. I should tag 2 people, because the problem is I don't know who all has done this tag, and I don't know who all has been tagged, and I don't remember who all does tags anymore. So I'm just going to leave it open and say, you know what? I'm gonna tag 2 people. I'm gonna tag the 2 people that I did a buddy read of The Two Towers with most recently, and that is David Wiley, and that is Steve Donahue. I don't know if Steve Donahue does tags. I think I've seen him, in fact I know I've seen him do some, so I think that he has. I don't know if either of these people have done this tag already. But if they haven't, I'm going to tag both of them in this one, and those are going to be the 2 people that I tag on this one. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We will wrap this up now. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.